The small roadside diner sat on the corner of Maple Street, where the smell of fresh coffee and buttered toast greeted every customer who walked through its doors. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, where truck drivers, teachers, and retirees gathered every morning to start their day. At a corner table near the window sat Eleanor Whitmore, an elderly woman with soft silver hair and kind eyes. She was dressed simply in a pale blue dress and a knitted cardigan that looked as though it had been repaired many times. Every morning at exactly 8 o'clock, Eleanor ordered the same thing: 1 cup of black coffee and a small plate of pancakes. The waitress, Maria, always brought it without even asking. Eleanor lived alone in a small house just a few blocks away. Her husband had passed away years earlier, and her only son was away serving in the military. But Eleanor never complained. Instead, she carried a quiet strength about her. She smiled warmly at strangers, tipped generously even when she had little, and always thanked the staff for their kindness. That morning seemed no different. The sun streamed through the windows, casting golden light across the diner. Maria approached Eleanor's table. "Good morning, Mrs. Whitmore," she said gently. Eleanor smiled. "Good morning, dear." But before Maria could set down the pancakes, the front door of the diner swung open loudly. 3 young men walked in, laughing and shoving each other. They looked like trouble from the moment they stepped inside. Their voices were loud, their laughter cruel. Customers exchanged uneasy glances. The tallest of the 3, a broad-shouldered man with a smirk on his face, scanned the diner like he owned the place. His name was Travis, and he loved attention. "Man, this place looks ancient," he sneered. His friends laughed. They ordered food loudly and began making rude comments about the staff and customers. Most people tried to ignore them, but Travis noticed something that made him grin: the elderly woman sitting alone by the window. He leaned back in his chair. "Hey," he said loudly, "look at Grandma over there." His friends followed his gaze. "But she's been sitting here since the 1950s. They laughed cruelly. Eleanor kept eating quietly, pretending not to hear. But Travis wasn't finished. He stood up slowly and walked toward her table. Maria felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Something bad was about to happen. Travis stopped beside Eleanor's table. He looked down at her with mock curiosity. "Well, well," he said loudly. "What do we have here?" Eleanor slowly looked up. Her eyes were calm but cautious. "Just an old woman having breakfast," she replied softly. Some customers glanced over nervously. Travis smirked. "Breakfast? Huh? Who's paying for it?" Eleanor answered gently. "I am." His friends snickered. Travis grabbed the chair across from her and sat down without asking. "You look like you can barely afford that dress," he said. Eleanor placed her fork down slowly. "This dress belonged to my husband's mother," she said quietly. "It's very special to me." But kindness meant nothing to Travis. He stood suddenly. "Well, let's see how special it really is." Before anyone could react, rip, the sound echoed through the diner. Travis had grabbed the side of Eleanor's dress and torn the fabric down the seam. Gasps filled the room. Maria dropped the coffee pot she was holding. Eleanor froze. For a moment, the entire diner was silent. The torn fabric hung loosely from Eleanor's shoulder. Her hands trembled as she tried to hold it closed. Tears welled in her eyes. Not because of the dress, but because of the humiliation. Travis laughed loudly. Guess it wasn't that special after all. His friends roared with laughter. No one moved. Some customers looked away in shame. Others looked furious but afraid. Eleanor slowly stood up, clutching the torn dress. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Why would you do that?" Travis shrugged. "Because I can." And then, the front door of the diner opened again. A tall man stepped inside. He wore a worn military jacket. His boots were dusty from travel. His eyes scanned the room. Then they stopped. On his mother. Standing there. Shaking. Her dress torn. Tears on her cheeks. The man's expression changed instantly. The room seemed to grow colder. Maria whispered under her breath, "Oh no." Because she knew exactly who he was. Sergeant Daniel Whitmore, Eleanor's son. And he had just come home from war. Daniel Whitmore had imagined this moment for months. Coming home. Walking into the diner. Seeing his mother smile the way she always did. He wanted to hug her. Tell her he was safe. Tell her the war hadn't changed him. But what he saw instead made his heart drop. His mother stood trembling beside her chair. Her beloved blue dress was torn open. Tears streamed down her wrinkled cheeks. Daniel's chest tightened. Slowly, he walked forward. The entire diner watched. Even Travis noticed him now. "Hey, soldier," Travis sneered. "You looking for something?" Daniel didn't answer. He stopped beside his mother. Gently, he removed his jacket and draped it over her shoulders to cover the torn dress. "Mom," he said softly. Eleanor looked up. For a moment she couldn't believe her eyes. "Danny." Her voice broke. He hugged her carefully. The diner was silent except for her quiet sobs. Daniel whispered gently, "It's okay. I'm here." Maria wiped tears from her eyes behind the counter. Daniel slowly turned around. His eyes locked onto Travis. And the kindness vanished. The calm in Daniel's face was replaced with something colder. Something controlled. But dangerous. "You did this?" Daniel asked quietly. Travis laughed. "Relax, man. It's just a dress." Daniel took one slow step forward. "You humiliated my mother." Travis rolled his eyes. "Your mom should stay home if she can't handle jokes." The room filled with tension. But Daniel didn't raise his voice. Instead, he spoke calmly. "Do you know what my mother did while I was overseas?" Travis shrugged. "Crocheted sweaters." Daniel's voice grew steady. "She worked 2 jobs so she could send care packages to my unit." The diner listened. She wrote letters to soldiers whose families had forgotten them. Eleanor lowered her head. Embarrassed, Daniel continued. "She fed homeless people from her own kitchen." Travis shifted slightly. Daniel stepped closer. "And today you thought it would be funny to tear her dress." The bully forced a laugh. "Yeah. And what are you going to do about it?" Daniel looked him straight in the eye and said something no one expected. "Nothing." The diner was stunned. But Daniel wasn't finished. Because the next thing he did would change everything. Instead of attacking Travis, Daniel turned toward the customers. Did anyone see what happened? At first, no one spoke. Then a truck driver stood up. "I saw everything." Another woman raised her hand. "Me too." Soon, several people spoke up. The courage Daniel showed had broken the silence. Maria called the police. Travis' confidence began to fade. "You guys are seriously overreacting," he muttered. Daniel remained calm. "Bullying someone weaker than you isn't strength," he said. "It's cowardice." Eleanor gently touched her son's arm. "Danny, please. I don't want trouble." Daniel looked at her tenderly. "You won't have any." Minutes later, police cars arrived. Officers entered the diner. Witnesses spoke. Security cameras were checked. The evidence was clear. Travis and his friends were escorted outside in handcuffs. As they passed Daniel, Travis glared at him. "You think you're a hero?" Daniel shook his head. "No." He glanced at his mother. "She is." The diner erupted into applause. Some customers wiped tears from their eyes. Maria brought Eleanor a warm blanket. "You're safe now," she whispered. But the most powerful moment was yet to come. Because Daniel wasn't done showing the world who his mother truly was. The next morning, the diner looked very different. News of what had happened had spread across the town. People filled every seat. But they weren't there for breakfast. They were there for Eleanor. Daniel stood beside his mother near the counter. Maria held a small box. "Mrs. Whitmore," she said gently, "we all wanted to do something for you." She opened the box. Inside was a beautifully repaired version of Eleanor's dress. A local tailor had worked overnight to restore it. But that wasn't all. Daniel stepped forward holding a folded American flag. He spoke clearly so everyone could hear. "My mother has spent her entire life helping others quietly." He looked at her proudly. She never asked for recognition. Eleanor shook her head modestly. Daniel continued. "But today she deserves it." He turned toward the crowd. "While I was serving overseas, Soldiers in my unit received letters from someone they called Mom Whitmore. Many customers gasped. That was her. Danielle's voice trembled slightly. She reminded us we weren't alone. Tears filled Eleanor's eyes. The crowd rose to their feet. A standing ovation filled the diner. Maria placed the repaired dress into Eleanor's hands. "You're the strongest woman we know." Daniel hugged his mother tightly. "You taught me what courage really looks like." Eleanor smiled through her tears, because the humiliation of the previous day had been replaced by something stronger: respect, love, and a reminder that kindness, no matter how quiet, can change the world. And as mother and son sat together sharing pancakes that morning, the diner felt warmer than it ever had before, because sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who raise them.